we left off, we were charging up San Juan Heights. Charge! I am very proud of that. I will have you know that that is the shortest political speech in American history. One word. On the basis of that one word, I became a war hero. Whether I deserved any such thing or not is entirely another question. There's a great deal of question as to whether I deserved any such thing. For one thing, well, there are my spectacles. Here, my dear, come, have a look. Step up here, my dear. I want you to come look through these. Yes, young lady, come here. Come. Come on, time is wasting. I want you to look through those and tell me what you see. It's terrible, isn't it? Yes! Kind of foggy. Thank you very much. That, my dear, is what I see without them. And that is a very serious matter. There's no laughing about this, because in Cuba we were in deep jungle. I was terrified that I should break my spectacles or lose them, and consequently lose my soldiers and be court-martialed. So I had to carry 11 extra pair, in fact, in the rim of my hat, in the lining of my coat, and the tops of my boots. I was terrified that I should lose them. And then, of course, there was the matter of my sword. Actually, the proper nomenclature is saber for a cavalryman. Now, I was an officer, lieutenant colonel, thank you very much. I was therefore entitled to carry a sword. I thought it romantic to carry a sword, and I therefore carried a sword. I quickly discovered that the only thing that it was good for was to get caught between my feet and make me fall down, usually in front of the men. Now, therefore, I claim this much credit, however. Within one day, 24 hours, I lost it. And therefore, I did not have to admit what a fool I had been to bring the thing in the first place. I was very lucky in Cuba to be able to send and receive mail. My darling Alice, I was very glad to get your letter and to hear of all that you had done. I have had a very hard and dangerous month. I've enjoyed it too, in a way, but war is a grim and fearful thing. It is strange to see Nicanor lie dead in his harness when Nicanor and you have that morning spoken together with eager longing of glory and honor to be won or lost, and of the loved ones who will be thrilled or struck down according as the event of the day goes. Worse still is the awful agony of the field hospital where the wounded lay day and night in the mud, drenched with rain and scorched with the terrible sun, while the sky overhead is darkened by the whirling vultures. And the stream of staring fugitives, the poor emaciated women and little tots of children, some like Archie and Quentin. One poor little mite still carried a canary in a little cage. My men are fierce and terrible in battle, and they are not well fed, but they gave half they had to the poor women and children. I suppose a good many of them thought, as I did, of their own wives or sisters or little ones. War is often, as this one is, necessary and even righteous, but it is terrible, your loving father. It has always been that way with my father. I've been able to hear when I was president, and I had a terribly difficult decision to make, and did not know what to do. I had only to think, what would my father do? And I can hear his voice, just as I can hear the sound of his heels on the floor. He taught me, I believe, all the really great lessons of life before I was 10 years of age. And the greatest of all of these is this: there is not one among us who does not at some time need a hand to be reached out to him. And therefore shame on us, shame indeed, if we are not willing to reach out our hand to our brother in his hour of need. He was the best man I ever knew. And he died, as men must. But he It died very suddenly and unexpectedly when I was 17 years of age. I was a student at Harvard University at the time. I received a telegram. They told me that he was ill. I rushed home. I got on the train, and when I saw him, I did not believe it. He met me at the train station. I could see him standing on the platform, tall, strong, mighty. And in 3 days, he was dead of stomach cancer. Most of my life, I have kept a diary. Oh, my father, how I shall miss your wise counsel. If it were not for the certainty that he is not dead, but gone before, I believe I should perish or go mad. But I did not perish, and in spite of what some of my critics have said, I did not go mad. And the reason was that even here, I could hear his voice. Seize the day, get action, never dwell on sorrow. I did that. I went back to college. I worked as hard as I could. I worked all night long sometimes so that I should not have to think of my sorrow. I joined the teams, the debating society and the social clubs. I joined the athletic teams, the rowing team and the boxing team. And I am very proud to say that I was almost lightweight champion of Harvard. Almost. There was one very skinny little fellow who could hit harder and faster than I could. I don't remember, well, it doesn't matter what his name was because he never came to anything in life. But I went on from there. I went on to the badlands of the Dakota Territory to try the life of the cowboy. The badlands. Have any of you been there? Have you? My dear, what did you think of it?
I loved it.
You loved it. I did too. Wonderful. It was, would you agree with me that it was beautiful without being pretty? Grimly beautiful. I used to say that it looked like Edgar Allan Poe sounds. Wonderful, wonderful grim beauty, the strange and bizarre shapes carved out of the bluffs and the canyons by the winds over thousands of years, casting those wonderful shadows at sundown. Grisly, grim, but terribly, terribly beautiful. Here, I brought with me some photographic proof of my career. Here I am, in all of my cowboy splendor, with my horse and my hat and my chaperos and my pistols and my lead hand. I don't know if you can see them from where you are seated. My spectacles. It was because of my spectacles that I was obliged to endure all of the usual nicknames with which I'm sure you are familiar. Four Eyes, Storm Windows, etc., etc. Yes, there we are. My friend here agrees entirely. Yes, although I must tell you, my friends, that my real nickname in the Dakota Territory came about in an entirely different way. One day, we were chasing some cattle. It was the springtime, we were bringing in the yearlings for branding, we had corralled them all, and they suddenly spooked. They burst loose out of the corral and went racing away. And my two men, the two men who worked for me, got on their horses to go after them, but they were going rather slowly. And I felt terrified that I saw all of my profits, you see, disappearing over the crest of the hill. So I stood up. I was on horseback myself at the time, and I stood up and I yelled to my men as loudly as I could yell, "You men! Hasten forward quickly there!" Yes, that was their reaction. One man fell entirely off his horse. He thought it was so funny. And I never lived it down. Years later, when I had become a hero in the Cuban War, the whole world called me Colonel. Or years after that, when I was president, the whole world called me Mr. President. Very respectful, you know. But I would go back and visit my friends in the Dakota Territory, and they would always say, "Well, here comes old Hasten Forward quick." I never lived it down. Never. The teddy bear. Now, my dear young lady, here you are. Will you hold this for me? I shall want it back. In the year 1902, I went on a bear hunt. It was my intention to shoot a bear. It was my intention to shoot several bears, if I possibly could, but I could not find one. I was in Mississippi, outside a wonderful little village called Onward, Mississippi, a wonderful little town. But I could not find a bear. It was cold. It was raining. We rode uphill and downhill and uphill and downhill for 3 days, and the dogs never even got scent of a bear. So, my guide, in an effort to please me, managed to catch in a trap a very old and very sickly female bear. This poor creature was obviously dying, and obviously in great pain, and he chained her to a tree so that I could shoot a bear. I was so outraged at this that I swore. I could not imagine looking my children in the face if we had with us a cartoonist, a man by the name of Cliff Berriman, and he drew, to commemorate this event, he drew this cartoon. Now, you will permit me to say that he's made the figure perhaps a trifle stout, but awfully noble, you see, refusing to shoot. And see what else he's done. In the picture, he's made it a cub, a cute little baby bear. In real life, it was a very old sow. But I suppose that is poetic license. In any event, this cartoon appeared in many newspapers, and when I got back to Washington, D.C., I discovered a letter was waiting for me. A man in New York City, whose name was Morris Mitcom, had written me a letter. He said that he had seen this cartoon, and he wanted to know, he told me that he was a maker of toys for children, and he wanted to know, would it be all right with me if he would make a bear, a toy for children, and name it after me? Well, I did not understand. I thought he meant he would call the thing Roosevelt, you see. I said that I thought that I did not believe my name was going to do him any good in the bear business, but that if you wish to do so, now, my dear, you may bring that back up if you like. Thank you very much. Thank you. You've been wonderful fun. Now, the next thing I knew, these things were everywhere. Trees, 300 feet high, 3,000 years old. Those trees were old when Julius Caesar walked on Earth. I camped out among those trees with John Muir, the great naturalist. We lay in our sleeping bags and gazed up at the winter stars through the canopy of those trees, and I can tell you that no cathedral ever conceived in the passion of the Middle Ages is as great and as grand a testament to God's grace as those mighty trees. They said you can't do that. There's no law that gives you the right to create simply by declaration a national park. I said there is a law, the Newlands Reclamation Act of 1902, that allows me to create a presidential bird sanctuary. Is there not? They said, well, yes, there is. I said, I hereby declare that the floor of the Grand Canyon is a presidential bird sanctuary. There is a law, the Antiquities Act of 1907, which will allow me to declare a presidential monument. Is there not? They said, well, I suppose that. I said, I hereby declare the walls of the Grand Canyon a presidential monument. Next case. You do what you can with what you've got where you are. The best. I hope you will permit me to presume upon the privilege of my age, and in the 1 minute that I have left to speak to you, preach to you just a little about the future. For my friends, I am gone. My entire generation is gone. If you wish to meet me, you must read a history book. And you, my friends, you are the generation of the here and the now. But there is the future, your children, and their children, and their children, and theirs. Therefore, go to your children and tell them this for me. Love life, do your duty, God bless you.